And welcome on in to our draft night special. We are officially on the clock. Washington is up, picking 16th overall. We are presented by SeatGeek, the official primary ticketing partner of the Washington Commanders. And welcome on in. We are at the facility here out in Ashburn. Julie Donaldson, Logan Paulson, and none other than Brian Mitchell and Fred Smoot is out at FedEx Field for a ticketing event. He's going to get the pulse of the fan base out there as the excitement it is mounting. You feel it in the building, walking around. The Jets are taking it, and we'll take Will McDonald. So that means Washington. Here we go.
On the clock, baby.
Yeah, on the clock.
This is exciting.
It is very exciting.
Like, this is the time where we look at where the roster is going to go. You look at who is left. Let's talk about the best potential options, Logan, for Washington.
Yeah, to me, I think Anton Harrison from Oklahoma is the best offensive tackle. Best offensive guard is Steve Avili out of TCU. Very physical guard. He can play center or right guard, play left guard also. Awesome football player. Position flex. We talked about that in the breakdown. Christian Gonzalez, Emmanuel Forbes, best corners on the board, and Deontay Banks that have to throw in there as well. So a lot of guys on the board right now.
So a couple of corners still potentially available, an offensive tackle as well. So we are looking to see where Washington could potentially go. Who do you like of who's left so far?
Well, if they go corner and they pick somebody like a Forbes, I guess. We
will never hear the end of it from Fred.
He would think he's the smartest man in the world, but you know what? I really believe that you got some cornerbacks left there. Some of the offensive linemen that they probably wanted, they're gone now.
Yeah, right.
So next thing you begin to lean to the next position of need, and I think that's as cornerback. We'll see where they go.
Well, we've been talking leading up to it that those are the two positions that we know that you would target with the talent that you have here in the first round. To be able to add to, there's also still the chance of Washington fielding some phone calls and making some moves potentially. Should somebody want that position? That's been a big storyline as well. Let's go get Fred's take, though. Let's bring in Fred from FedEx Field.
Look at that, man.
Fred, you look at the names that are still available that Washington has the opportunity to potentially draft, and your thoughts are?
Well, I'm not going to say what you guys think I'm going to say. All right, I'm going to talk about some other players. I think Nolan Smith is still on the board. I know Logan feels different because Christian Gonzalez, a guy that we didn't think was still going to be on the board right now. But when I think about it, I'm sorry. Philadelphia drafting Jalen Carter, I think, just forced the hand of the front office to say we're going to have to get a guard, we're going to have to get a tackle, and we're going to have to match their size and physicality. I'm sorry right now. A lot of guys, but I don't know personally who you get right here. But Emmanuel Forbes is still available at 16.
You know, one of the things that look, I'm surprised you didn't start just barking at us. For that one.
Seriously.
You've been high on a lot of these guys, and again, coming into it, many predictions have had Forbes coming to us at 16 as well. What would you make the case for the players that are still available?
So I think there's a whole bunch of really good football players, obviously, and I think Fred brought up an interesting point about going guard there. If they do go guard here, I think it's Steve Avili. Like, he's the guy that I think is nasty, excellent foot speed, physical demeanor, a lot of playing experience, but I also think there's a good guard depth in this class. So if you don't go that way, I think that's totally fine. Another guy on the depth chart is Nolan Smith. Fred's talked about him a ton, that 4-3 edge rusher that I think is a dynamic pass rusher. I'm not sure he fits the style here as much, but I think those guys are all available, and we mentioned there's 3 or 4 corners here that I think are excellent fits.
Are any of the players still available surprising to you, Brian?
Oh, Gonzalez still being there. That's a little surprising to me. But I think ultimately going back to Washington, you have your board set. You know what you want to do. Just because the Eagles drafted Carter doesn't mean you have to switch up. I think it's the whole thing about it. If you get caught up in a game like that, they draft, I got to match. No, you should have somebody here to match them already. So I think they still need to stick to their board and go with the person that they think.
Because the Eagles got somebody that you look at his highlights. I mean, that defensive tackle, he is going to come for you. I mean, your own line's probably going to need to be beefed up with that. And we do talk about yes, you can't just binge your board and break it for that necessarily, but you do need to take a look at what is the players in your division, what are they doing in the division, and how can you make sure that you're prepared to counteract that, be it, of course, on the roster, potentially already, or bringing somebody in.
And the Eagles, they always have a good defensive line. And you want to block your offense. I really believe, don't worry about the Eagles' defensive line. Worry about your defensive line. And because in practice, you want to play against the best. And we look at this defensive line here of Washington, one of the best defensive lines out there. So you build your offense up to have a battle going on. So you get in the game, it's easy. That's the way I look at it. But you can't worry about the other team too much because they will do things to make you adjust.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what would be the value of potentially trading this right now?
So I think the value is outstanding. I think we saw the value of it last year. Will Levis is still on the board. I think there's a lot of people, if you're quarterback interested, maybe move up. It seems like he might be a guy that's going to slide a little bit further. And so if you're a team later, maybe you don't feel the value to move up there. But the value is you pick up more opportunities. You pick up second-round picks. You pick up third-round picks. And there are good football players in that range of this draft. So if you feel like you can get that done, I think that is a priority to get done. We'll see what they end up doing.
And we always talk about the tier system.
Yeah.
Where would you say that we are in the tier system right now to be able to get what they would want at this position, or the value of being able to move back a tier?
So I think we're firmly in tier 2. And I think we mentioned probably 5 or 6 players that I have in tier 2. And if that's how you evaluate your board, moving back 5 or 6 spots is totally viable. It's a totally viable thing, so I think that's really important.
Okay, so we do have the pick is in. We're just going to wait for it to be announced, but that means no trading.
Oh my gosh, what is it going to be? Here we go. I didn't think they were going to pick at 16.
I didn't either. I was anticipating that the entire time potentially moving back. But see, isn't that part of it? Right? They never want to let you know exactly what they're doing. They want to keep you guessing.
And I like that. I like the fact that they kept us guessing.
Yeah, I was for certain saying, okay, you know what? This is something that Martin Mayhew likes to do. He likes to trade back, but that is not happening tonight. They do have 8 picks overall as we do play out the draft. So there's plenty of time to still make moves and to still draft pieces that will be adding to their roster. Okay, what do you think? Cornerback? Offensive lineman?
I'm going to go corner.
Oh, look at you, just holding your breath right there. Making us all wait. I think one of those 6 players. Like I mentioned the guys I like. Tackle, edge. I think there's an interesting guard on the market here. So we'll see, man. It's exciting. I just pray that Fred doesn't get to tell us what it is.
How ready would these players potentially be to come in and take for day one? Are they ready to jump right in?
You drop them at 16, they need to be ready day one.
They need to be ready.
You don't make that move of somebody that can't be ready.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you're looking for somebody that's a day one impact player, and all the guys we've talked about are day one impact players for this roster. It just depends on what spot. And then I think you got to look at the strengths of the draft later on as well, which we've talked about. So I definitely think all of these guys are going to be contributors day one.
A lot of that goes into the evaluations as well as saying, okay, what position do we need, and do we need them to start right away? Or is this a position where we can sit back and say, okay, maybe they can grow a little bit, and that can help decipher the moves that they may want to make? That's when I was young, Julie.
Right now, you draft them in the first round, they're ready to play.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely right.
That is the expectation. And that's one thing you hear Coach talking about a lot too, is in a certain time you could afford to wait and let them be able to kind of get that experience before you put them on the field, but not these days.
Yeah, when money is
microwave
involved,
them, stick them in, and fly them out there.
Absolutely.
Can't have a lot of money on the bench.
Okay, so we are just waiting for the pick to come in, and then when the pick does come in, we will be having head coach Ron Rivera will be coming on over here and sitting down and chatting with us, and then as soon as the pick is ready, we will have a conversation with him as well, getting excited to see what the pick and who the player is, what they will be bringing to Washington to get excited about. Now, you've been talking a lot with head coach Ron Rivera through this process. What do you imagine is going over in that war room getting up to this moment?
Well, I mean, if the pick is in, I think everything's done. I think it's all handshakes and high fives. I think they're feeling good. They're probably having, hey, great job, guys. We found it. We got our guy. And the fact they didn't trade back here, I think, means they had a very high evaluation on whoever they selected. A guy that they felt was very, very dynamic, a guy that could change this roster. You mentioned they have to come in day one. That's what this means to me. They are very, very confident.
Just like Jahan last year. They believed in him. A lot of people didn't think that was the pick they should take, but that's what they believed in. He came and performed. I think right now, like you stated, the pick is in. So they've come to their decision with the guy that they believe in. And we'll see who this guy is.
Coach Rivera, one of the best things he says about this night is he gets to make that phone call. So he will be making that phone call, could be going on right now outside of our studios, making that phone call saying, all right, are you ready to become a Washington Commander? Just the second first pick as a commander as well. It's
definitely a very prestigious thing to be in.
Good feeling right there.
What is it like getting that phone call after sitting here and kind of watching the board?
I sat a lot longer than these guys can sit.
Fifth round, right?
But no matter when you get that call, I don't care if it's 4th round, 5th round, and when I got drafted, it was 12 rounds. When you get it, you're ecstatic.
We just saw a little sneak peek of.
Did you see Fred?
Was that Fred jumping around?
Yeah, that is it. Okay.
Did you see Fred? I bet you. Look at this man. Look at this man right here. I don't even need to know what it is. I don't even know what the pick is. There we go, Emmanuel Forbes.
It is going to be blowing out all of our audio boards, I am sure. So it is, in fact, Emmanuel Forbes from Mississippi State, 6'1", 166 pounds. And you've been concerned that maybe that's a little bit too light, but let's go ahead and bring Fred on in here. We got Fred.
Fred, how does it feel to be the second best cornerback from Mississippi State to play for the Commanders?
Well, first of all, I want to say this. It's only 3 people that get paid for being wrong, and that's Logan Paul, the weatherman, and Mel Kiper. At the end of the day, we went out there, we got the best player that's available. We got a guy playing opposite of St. Jude's who's 6'2", ball retrieval. He's a thief. And not only is he a thief, he's one that run a 4.340. We got the best cornerback in the draft. Mark my word, 10 years from now, we will look back, and this would be a staple pick for the Washington Commanders.
He's barking and everything.
Dude, look at
man.
that guy.
All right, Fred, you've been.
Like
why are you so sweaty, man?
So
Jeez.
exciting. Fred, you've been so high on Forbes for so long. How do you see him coming in here and working into that secondary? What is it going to look like on week 1 with his addition?
I think he's going to be the best thing this D-line ever got. When you got 2 corners on the outside that can make the quarterback hold the ball, it gives the defense a line a chance to hunt. He's not only, like I said, one of those guys that can get the ball back, that can break the passes up. When he gets the ball in his hand, he turns into a receiver. He's an offensive weapon when he gets the ball in his hand. The one thing you want to win ball games, you want 1 turnovers, and you want to score off of those turnovers. Well, we don't need a kicker with Emmanuel Forbes in the game.
Absolutely. I mean, he is a dynamic playmaking threat. I think Fred talked about that all week. He's been talking about that probably since February, right? A guy that can take the football, score points with it, recovery speed, instinctive football. Played a lot of off cover 3, which is what this team does. Did an excellent job reading that. Also can play in man-to-man coverage situations. A physical tackler. I mean, he's an excellent football player. I think we should all be ecstatic to have him.
Yeah.
You know, Fred, my one question still remains, man. 166 pounds. What do you think about that?
Well, this is what I'll tell you, Logan. Going at number 16, he going to have a big check. And with a big check, you're going to eat a lot of steaks and you're going to lift a lot of weights. So don't worry about him being 166. He's going to be all right, Logan. He can tackle better than a lot of people think he can. And like I said, I am sweating from the adrenaline coming from it right now. You don't know how happy I am to be a Washington Commander right now. I see y'all over there. It's real.
So we know you're excited, but you're out there at this ticketing event for the season ticket holders. What has been their reaction to it?
Man, they went crazy when they had Emmanuel Forbes. Maybe I've been tutoring them for like a couple of weeks, getting them ready for it. I think they thought it was the best pick we had. I know a lot of people want to go offensive line right there. I'm with B. Mitch. Don't let Philadelphia change your plans. If you wanted Emmanuel Forbes, you get him. And that's what we did. We went out here and we got a game changer. He just went to a great college by the name of Mississippi State.
Mississippi State coming out.
Bulldogs. He's going to talk about
every
Fred
conversation.
Going to talk about Montez Sweat, every single Mississippi State player.
Like, having him now on the roster, and you have a guy like Kendall Fuller that can play multiple positions, how good can the secondary be now?
I think the secondary, sky's the limit, B. Mitch. Think about this. As a DB, I'm only as good as my defensive line. I feel like we got one of the best defensive lines in football. Now you match that with a back end that can actually go out there and play against the Devontae Smiths, can go out there and play against, A.J. Brown, can go out there and play against Jamar Chase. Now you have a chance. The front end and the back end have to play against each other. We will see what a Jack Del Rio defense is capable of with the weapons that we have given to him.
Oh, Mike, he's so instinctive when the ball's in the air. He's so instinctive in terms of reading route concepts. Do you think he could play nickel? Is he physical enough to play nickel in this defense?
I don't think he's a nickel. I think he's too long to be inside. I think that's where Kendall Fuller comes in at. He's the brainiac in there. He's the guy that can go inside the nickel and actually play the run. I think when you get a guy with this type of length, you want to keep him outside. He excels on man-to-man coverage. He excels being by himself. He excels at pressing the guy. So I think at the end of the day, moving him into the nickel, I think I'll be cheating him. Put Kendall Fuller in there, a guy that has been there, done that, and I think now you solidify the whole back end with Cameron Curl and D-Fro at safety. I think you have beyond a solid group. I think you have a game-changing group.
He talks about moving Kendall Fuller to the nickel position.
Sure.
We had a fan ask you that question earlier.
Yeah.
You just
Absolutely.
answered this the other day. And folks, let us know your comments. Like, what are you feeling and thinking about this pick as well? Bring the comments. We're going to bring it up. But what do you think about that of moving Kendall to that position?
I think Fred, had excellent analysis there. I think the idea of moving Kendall in there because he's done it before, he's a little bit bigger, he's got experience there, he's played safety. It's a totally different skill set, And the only reason I even brought up the idea of moving Forbes in there is because he is so instinctive with the ball in the air, right? So I'm not saying he can't do it, but I do think Kendall, with his experience there, is a guy that is a perfect candidate to fill that role. So I would defer to Fred on that. I think he's got good insight on the position.
When you're outside, you got the sideline. That's your friend.
Yeah.
When you're playing a nickel, you're playing inside a lot. They go both ways. And you have to have a guy with a lot of experience, and Kendall does have that experience.
And it's a lot about having to react quickly, the switch of the hips, a lot when you're at that position. But this is an area of the team that we knew coming in that we wanted them to be able to address, and that they were probably going to target the secondary. Also still the offensive line, also still the linebackers as well. So there's still a lot to come still as we go through. 7 more picks total as we get through this. And as soon as Coach Rivera is ready, as soon as Emmanuel Forbes is ready, he's going to be joining us. An interesting stat about him here, and of course Fred would say it's that he has the 6 career pick sixes. And yes, you like that because he doesn't get tackled. He's fast, he gets the ball, and he just runs it back the other way. He has 10 siblings.
Wow. That's why he's so fast. Yeah. when mom said come and get it, he has to be at the table first. And so, but he's not that big, so did he get to the table first?
Yeah, I don't know. Probably not,
or
right?
did somebody get there and push him off the table and eat more food than he did?
Yeah, absolutely.
But no, he's a good player. And I say, if a guy can play in the SEC and produce at that level, you're a good player.
And like Fred always says, he's covered some of the best college receivers of all time. You know what I mean? So I think this is a really outstanding job.
So a lot of times we also want to talk about what kind of player could you expect and compare these kids coming out, because that's something so we can understand that already played in the NFL, played in the league. So we're going to bring Fred back in for this one because we have to. Fred, when we're talking about, let me ask you first, who would you compare Emmanuel Forbes to in the league as a guy who's already done it?
Maybe a Fred Smoot.
Himself. I knew it. You were going to say that.
Hey, but let's be seriously. Samari Rowe. He reminds me of Samari Rowe. Played for the Baltimore Ravens. Also played for Tennessee Titans. Not the biggest dude, but Samari Rowe was a man-to-man guru. Samari Rowe wasn't the best tackler. He tackles better than Samari, but Samari was supreme when it came to covering deep passes, pressing the guy at the line of scrimmage. So if I had to say pound for pound and technique-wise and how he plays the ball, I would say Samari Rowe from Florida State. He reminds me of Samari.
Does he talk like Fred Smoot?
No, Fred can't.
Fred can't.
Well, you know what? He does have a little chatter about him, but he's not what I call in-your-face trash talker, but he does have a lot of confidence. He has a ton of confidence, and what I do love him, he's very cerebral, and he actually doesn't play the wide receiver. He plays the game against the quarterback and the offensive coordinator, and that's what makes him a top supreme corner in college, and I think that's what's going to take him to the next level in the league.
All right, Fred, before we break a gasket, we've got head coach Ron Rivera joining us now. We want to get his take. We'll go back out to Fred as well, and he'll be with us here tomorrow as we go. Coach Rivera, glad to have you here with us. It's a very exciting night. You decide to stay at 16 and pick Emmanuel Forbes. What was it that made him your guy?
Well, the takeaways, first and foremost. That's one of the things that really, truly stood out for us. It's one of the things that, if we lacked anything as a defense last year, and we didn't lack a lot, I thought what Jack and the staff did and the players did was phenomenal on defense. It was the takeaways. That was one thing we needed to step up on. And again, this is a young man that is a takeaway machine. He does a heck of a job in man coverage, a great job with his zone coverage. So a lot of things that he does fits very well with the way we play, with the style we play. And analytically speaking, when you look at the metrics, look at the numbers, a lot of it pointed to him as being one of their top choices.
His size keeps popping up, Coach. And I said he played in the SEC. He could play anywhere. What made you just lock in on him and stick with him?
Well, that's exactly it. He played in the SEC, and Brian, that's a great point, because when you play that type of competition, you're playing just a step below the NFL. And he showed it every day. Didn't miss any game time. One thing that people really dove into was his history of injuries. there's really nothing out there that tells you this guy you got to be concerned with. And so again, it's just knowing that we were able to really feel good about picking him.
And then, so obviously 3 good cornerbacks now. How does he fit in that room?
That's exactly it. You can't have enough. I mean, you really can't, just because what this position calls for. And you've got to have guys that are very productive and guys that are going to take the ball away. And this is an opportunity for us to have that.
Yeah.
Where were you when you're in the war room and you're having these conversations that you say, okay, you know what, this is the agreement where we're at after all the healthy conversations going into tonight?
Well, as we were going through it and you see the names that were coming up, and a lot of those names were expected. But when you get down to it and you have some of your top names still there and the guy you like the most is there, you get excited. And we got excited about it. I know our defensive staff is truly excited, and it's one of those things that this helps us. And again, if you go back and look at the analytics, one thing that we needed to improve on and get better is the takeaways.
How many conversations or what kind of interaction did you have with him leading up to this?
Well, we did the interview at the Combine, and then we had the interview when we brought him in on a 30 visit, spent a lot of time with him. Our guys spent a lot of time with him. We Zoomed with him as well. And so really felt a good sense that he understands, he gets it. A lot of things that we do similar to the things that they did also. So we think that transition, that'll be relatively easy for him as well.
Did you think about any other position at this point, or was he your guy that you wanted?
Yeah, he was in that clump, to be honest. I mean, we have a stack of guys, and so based on who's there, this is the guy we'll go for. That's what we ended up with. One of the guys we really liked, just because of the takeaway aspect of what his game brings to the table.
And then as a personality, is he competitive? Do you enjoy that?
Oh yeah. He's very competitive. When you talk to him and you listen to him, and when you watch tape with him, you listen to him talk about the missed opportunities and how upset he was about that. There was one play in particular, he bites on a double move, and the first thing he said, that's on me, because you know what, I was too anxious. The thing I got to do is be a little bit more disciplined. So again, self-corrects. A lot of good things that you're looking for in a player. We saw in him.
What are you expecting from him right off the bat when he comes in here?
Oh, come in and compete and be part of what we're doing. Now, again, this is a young man that's going to help us as a football team as we go forward.
And I think, Mitch brought up the size. Another thing that I like about his game is he's very physical for a man of his size. How important was that for you in this selection?
Well, it's very important just because, again, one of the things that we tell our corners is take your shot on your leverage side.
Yeah.
And again, turn him back in. If you miss him, you miss him, but as long as it's on the leverage side, we can live with it. Because why? You've turned him back to where your pursuit's coming from.
Coach, once he gets the ball in his hand, he seemed to be a little bit like some of these return guys we've seen around here.
I knew it's coming back to that.
Right. Do you ever think about anything like that? Because he seems electric.
He does. One of the things that my understanding is that he's not that gifted in terms of catching the ball, tracking the ball, catching it. No, it's hard.
Oh, yeah.
It is hard, and that's what's so special about what you did. You tracked the ball, whether it was kickoff or punt. And again, he tracks the ball very well, but it's not what he does well. Taking the ball away, intercepting the ball.
I work with
that's
him.
What
get him right, because he's got some nice interceptions.
No, he catches it. He goes.
He does go.
We were talking earlier, of course, Fred Smoot is just over the moon. Being from Mississippi State, and he was wanting him all along and saying, even though he's a smaller stature, that's what he does. He gets the ball. You can't catch him. He's in the other end zone. Who would you, though? Do you ever do comparisons to what you expect, what kind of a player that they could potentially be?
Wow. With his ball skills, he's one of those kind of guys that has the ability to make plays. And God, there's so many great corners you think about with their ball skills that he mimics. And so it'll be interesting to see exactly who you can compare him to as he develops and grows. Now it's a little early. Don't want to put that kind of pressure on the young man.
Well, Eric McMillan was a smaller guy. He wasn't as tall as he is, though. And Eric played a long time and was physical as hell. So I'm looking forward to him to be physical.
Cool.
Be out there
and you mentioned some of the crossover from Mississippi State to here in terms of scheme, and you talked about earlier this week about making sure it was a scheme fit. Some of that zone stuff, does that speak to what you guys do? And can you talk about some of the crossover there?
Well, in the crossover being, again, here's a young man that has good spatial awareness, understands where he is on the field, and then also recognizes where people are coming from.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that analytics tells you, is that he's aware.
Yeah.
And so you see it when you put the tape on, you watch him attack the ball. You watch him get his hands on the ball. You watch him make the interception. So those are all things that you see as pluses that we can most certainly work with, because again, it gives us the opportunity to be successful.
Yeah.
Are you going to try to make sure you feed him some good steaks
Oh, yeah.
when you
Connor.
get here?
Well, that's one of the nice
Sitting
things.
downstairs, Coach. They had some steak and lobster.
Yeah, the steak and lobster tonight was legit.
Yes, it was. And you're right about that. We'll put some weight on him. As he grows and matures, You'll see. But again, he's a heck of a young man that we're excited about.
Yeah. He might have had to fight for his dinner. He has 10 siblings.
Oh, yeah, that's been part of it too.
Okay, so Jack Del Rio won.
Yes.
Tonight,
yes.
Eric Bieniemy, how much is in your ear to try and make some moves tomorrow?
Absolutely. You know, it's one of the things that as we were going through the stack of players and we talked about how it impacts going forward, and it most certainly will impact some of the things that we do tomorrow on both sides of the ball.
Any big needs you kind of still feel like you need to get addressed, or?
No, I think as you look at it, it's really just about the depth now. Yeah. I mean, we feel really good about the depth we have at pretty much most of our positions. You know, now we'll see exactly what's available. You know, we'll get together as this draft ends and kind of reposition the board based on who's left.
Yeah.
How I mean, since you decide to go at 6, how long is tonight for you?
Oh, it's normal.
Yeah.
You going home now? You getting out of here?
No, I wish. Get some sleep.
No, Joe Gibbs is staying tonight.
Yeah. Well, we'll be here a while, but you know, the picking where we pick gives us an opportunity to start looking at what's up there and start talking about where we can head, and we should be able to wrap up, you know, fairly early, opposed to when you're picking much later.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, we feel good about today.
We do.
It's exciting.
We do. Thank you, guys.
This is Season of Hope. Coach, we know there's been a lot of hard work going into tonight and into the draft, so the picks that are still to come as well.
Well, you know, I would really like to say, you know, I really appreciate the effort that our personnel department put in. It really did. I thought our college scouts has been outstanding. They've done a great job for us.
All right, Coach, work is just getting started here at the draft.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Emmanuel Forbes, the newest member. Coach
it.
Ron Rivera, thank you so much for your time here. And we will get Forbes later, I am told. We were hoping to join tonight. He's probably celebrating as he should.
Yeah.
A family member to say
How
hi
was this call, by the way, Coach? How was this call when you talked to him?
You know what's funny was I think he was trying to be cool because he didn't want everybody getting all excited and everything. Yeah. But you could tell he was bursting. He wanted, and then as soon as I said, "Hey, you know, I'm gonna let you go now," and again, just understand, hey, you're commander, and you can just hear it as the family started to go. And then when we called them back, you could hear the family in the background.
Going crazy.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
That has to be so
stuff.
rewarding for you. That moment for them, their family, life-changing, and hopefully changing to the roster in the upcoming season as well. A lot of work to be done. We look forward to the next 7 picks that Washington has. Thank you so much, Head Coach Ron Rivera. And for Fred Smoot, probably still celebrating over there at FedEx Field.
He's
we'll have to
more
calm him
excited
down a little bit
than
because we will be back here tomorrow at 6 o'clock. We will be back up with the stream, and then again when we're on the clock, we'll be back up live as well. B. Mitch, so great having you back in the studio with us for Logan. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. And we are presented by SeatGeek, and we'll be back tomorrow.